Welcome to Commander Central, episode 104, and today we're going to talk about how we've been bad at Magic, specifically, our own personal flaws as Commander players and deck builders. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
How are you guys doing today, the night before we leave for GP Madison?
I am jacked. It's been a long week.
It has been. So this will be airing Monday after Magic Fest GP Madison is over, but we're leaving tomorrow morning to head down to it, so this is the show beforehand. Did anybody actually get to play Magic this week? I know Max didn't go on Tuesday. I had a thing.
I played Standard on Wednesday.
Did you? So how's the Standard format been? I've heard like mixed things from people.
I don't know how it is, really. I played some old deck, like the old version of Mono Blue Tempo, and it was just trash.
I mean, it was a really fun pre-release limited environment, so I don't know if that, but like, it's just so weird, and there's so many Planeswalkers, I just can't even mentally imagine how the
I didn't
Standard
see any of the
environment
new
is.
Planeswalkers when I was
Really?
playing. Yep.
Interesting. So are you ready for the for your event this weekend?
Yeah.
Nice.
I need like 70 more points, and I have a first round bye for the rest of the year.
Oh, awesome. So is there stuff you're going to try to play it on Friday to get in, or is there not going to be a chance to get enough?
I really don't care about the bye this time, so.
All right. Well, anything else exciting going on before we move on? It's cold and crappy here in Wisconsin.
Yep.
Because it's Wisconsin and we're back on awful weather. But it's supposed to be nice for the weekend in Madison, so I'm looking forward to that. We have some listeners who are going to be there. We have a couple T-shirts for a few people. We have our own gear
Yeah.
that we'll wear, so we should be easy to find unless you're Chris. He'll be incognito.
I'm going to wear my shirt on Friday.
Okay.
We have the decoys ready.
We're all set. We will be tough to
If
find.
I see someone lock eyes with me and start walking towards me, I'm just going to turn around and walk away.
Sick smoke grenade in the ground, ninja style, and Chris is just gone.
They're going to walk up to you and you'll be like, oh, you don't have a fish hook in your hat. Wrong guy.
It's a cloud of smoke, and all you hear is just laughter fade away in the distance. That would be awesome. And now Mother's Day is on Sunday, so I had to go do Mother's Day shopping today, and just have been running around doing all my prep before I leave. My wife's gift is upstairs right now, or out in my car right now. She wanted a steak, so I just went and bought her a New York strip steak. So it's cold enough outside; it's sitting in my car, and so Mother's Day shopping is done. I will grill that when I get home on Sunday.
The beer sat in my car all afternoon because that's what I did on my lunch run. I was like, I need snacks for the GP and beer for the house.
Yep.
So snacks stocked up. So
I haven't done anything yet.
No,
I'm
that's
just going to wing it all tonight.
Well, I'm going to have to get up early and pack, too. I am completely not set in that regard, but we'll be on the road at 8. We'll be in Madison by
10:30.
10:30 or 11 in the GP and doing our thing. I got some vendor stuff to do right away, but
Same
then I'm
here.
looking
That's
for
probably
games.
what I'm going to do, too.
Yeah.
I know my whole team's probably going to be there at like 8 in the morning.
They're getting up early, they said.
Yep.
So
They have their last chance trials that they're going to go to. So.
Okay, nice. Well, if you want to find us, you can find us obviously at Magic Fest Madison, but you can also find us online.
Indeed you can. You can find us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can Facebook search us, CMDR Central. You can YouTube search us, CMDR Central. You can find us online at cmdrcentral.com.
You can also head over to flipsidegaming.com and pick up any War of the Spark singles or pre-order your Modern Horizons cards by using promo code CMDR in all caps. And again, we just want to thank Flipside for hooking us up with those War of the Spark bundles for last month's contest winners.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And those will be going out later this week when you're hearing it. They should arrive on Wednesday of this week.
Okay, cool.
So,
You can also find us on patreon.com.
yeah, head over to patreon.com/CMDR Central. Look at that. We're just
Nice.
set to go. Check out our reward tiers. You can, for $2, you can join our chat and talk about War of the Spark, the debacle of the Mythic Edition, or today it was cats.
Yes, there we go. All the cat pictures being posted
I got to
today.
say, I've literally avoided my Twitter this past week. Between the gun violence, the ruining of this Mythic Edition, I'm just like, I don't even want to be on social media.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
So I
you're-
open up Slack and it's like all this random stuff people are talking. I'm like, thank you, thank you.
It was a bit of a week. You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
We do have quite a few new patrons to say give a shout out to. So we want to say thank you to Will DeMann, Joe Mack, T. Schleicher. Yep, totally screwed that one up. Travis May, Zachary Ranke, Sean Lefebvre. Yep, screwed that one up too.
Probably Lefevre, I would guess, but I'm not positive.
Okay. And then Eric Lands. So,
right.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you all very much. We do really, really appreciate it.
Buys me pants.
And to all you listeners out there who are not in our Slack, we did not fire Max that week. That was all a joke. Max had a big appointment that he had to go to,
He did,
so we
he
had to
leave
finish
early
recording
in the show.
without him.
Although nobody did message us saying, "Wait, is Max really gone?" I don't think.
I'm just
anyone
curious.
actually
I'm
believed
curious
it,
if
but-
someone was like, "What happened?"
A lot of shade got thrown my way, though. They're like, well, about time. Or, yeah, good riddance. I'm like, geez, I see how it is.
You didn't feel the love, is what you're telling us.
Hashtag scumbag.
Yep. Oh, don't even get me started on that.
Speaking of Max being a scumbag, though, he got shouted out on the Brothers Warcast this week.
I did because they built an awesome Tezzeret tribal scumbag deck.
Yes.
I have not listened to the show yet. I think actually maybe we'll put it on in the car tomorrow on the drive down. But I didn't listen to it. But you got called out a little bit for it, I believe.
Yeah, because they said this is right up my alley because it just takes infinite turns and locks people out of the game.
I don't think
I could get behind
I
that.
don't know if I've ever seen Max take an extra turn in a game.
I did it with my Tassiger deck because I run Nexus of Fate in it.
Yeah, and then he literally played a land and said, "Go."
It was a really underwhelming Nexus of Fate. Yeah, you've done some scumbag stuff, but extra turns usually isn't it.
No.
Well, I'm curious with that deck. Who's the commander in it?
It's an Esper commander. I can't remember. That was
Okay.
last week.
A lot of time has passed since.
Or earlier this week.
Well, we'll give it a
He's
listen
got to
tomorrow,
put it out of his mind.
because I do want to hear. And actually, Zach just told us tonight he's going to be in Vegas along with Ryan. Both those
Yep.
guys will be there from Brothers Warcast, so that will be exciting as well.
And they're coming up on episode 100.
They're pretty
So
close.
congrats to them.
Yeah.
Zach told me today that they have some cool stuff planned that everybody's going to like.
Good deal. Yeah, congrats. It's kind of weird. Like those guys and Cookout and Legendary Creature, like the four of us all started roughly at the same time. So it's been kind of a lot of fun coming up with these 4 different shows or 3 different shows. I've just enjoyed that.
So, did I ever tell you one of the
Uh-oh.
guys on my team came up to me in the shop and he asked me if I knew Ryan from Commander Cookout?
Okay.
And I was like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Oh, no reason." I'm just like, "Oh yeah, well, if you CCO," and he's like, he was freaking out. He thought that we had like beef or something like that. And I'm like, "No, this is just like an ongoing thing."
That's awesome.
No, we love you guys. It's
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's been really cool coming up with these different shows and having that kind of feedback from those guys where it's very supportive and not at all kind of competition, and that's been a lot of fun.
Yep. Oh, I have one more shout out since I haven't done this for a while. Ryan of CCO has started his own podcast.
Yes, he's his own solo show in addition to the CCO
Yes.
show.
It's called Commander Ad Populum. It's 2 episodes in now.
I think so, yeah.
It's working on getting to iTunes. I haven't found it yet, but if you download the Podomatic app, it's there. It's easy to use. Really good first 2 shows. You
So if
learn
you-
a lot about Ryan in episode 1.
So if you enjoy CCO stuff, give him a listen because it's
Yeah.
kind of got a similar vibe, but it's more him kind of talking about himself and
Yep.
magic and
And it's more technical.
yeah.
And it's a shorter show. It's like a 30-minute show, 35-minute show versus CCO being about an hour.
Or us being we're pretty good. We used to kind of run in the hour 15 range sometimes. We've been keeping it at a tight
45.
50-ish minutes for the most part.
They just don't know how much other like trash was there that got cut out.
I listened to one of all things. I listened to this podcast called The Dollop. It's like kind of a comedy podcast.
Yep.
And usually that one runs an hour-ish. And the one I listened to today was close to an hour and a half. And of all topics, it was on the history of mincemeat pie in America. And
Okay.
it was ridiculously disgusting. So, because like it was old-timey frontier people, like they used mincemeat pie to preserve food because
Yep.
they didn't have refrigeration, and it was stories about the pie giving you night terrors because they would eat it for months at a time without pitching it. Like they'd make a giant pie that would last a month sitting out on the counter unpreserved.
That doesn't sound like my kind of fun.
No, it was horrifying. The whole thing was horrifying. Like bird beaks and stuff in it, but it was a long show on that ridiculous subject of all things. This is starting to sound like episode 100, or the April Fool's episode, where we just ramble for.
Okay, then I won't talk about the one I listened to.
So instead, let's maybe switch over and talk about a little bit of magic.
Sure.
Pick a card, any card.
Yeah. Well,
That actually works.
pick a vote, any vote. So we're
Oh.
going to talk about things we're bad at in Magic. because we always try to maybe learn a little bit of something about EDH, and I think examining your own weaknesses is a good way to do that. So we'll start with the number one flaw Max has, as we talk about it on the air a lot, and we just alluded to it.
I can't vote a council's judgment correctly to save my life, whether I cast it or someone else does.
So why is that, do you think?
The pressure, man.
Is that what it is?
Most of the time, it's when it's cast by another player. Because
Okay.
I'm usually like the last vote. It's like, okay,
Sure.
I either take the right thing out or take the thing that's going to benefit me more out and make everybody else angry.
Because it does change, how you vote changes a lot, whether it's 3 players or 4 players.
Right. When I cast it, I usually pick the thing I want gone right away. And for whatever reason, the tides never turn in my favor. And someone's like, oh, let's just get rid of that Soul Ring instead.
Interesting. Yeah, so do you think you cast it maybe when you are too far ahead? When people aren't going to do it? Because, like, that's the bad time to cast it, when you're leading, and then, because then no one's going to participate.
I just think people like stabbing me in the back. Everybody complains that card is the problem. So, okay, I have the answer because it either has Shroud or Hexproof. And
Sure.
I vote for that thing, and then someone else says, well, I want to vote for card number 2. And it's like, what's going on?
They're doing the math wrong, honestly, I think.
No, it's politics, because the person I voted for is also like, hey, I can kill Max next turn if you don't vote for my thing.
It's an easy card to screw up, too. It is.
Yep.
Like, it's fun to tease you about it, but, like, I've seen a lot of people mess up the council judgment where I'm like, oh, but if you had picked that thing, you could have got 2 of their things, and instead you know, whatever.
There was
That was the one that I was in a game with both of you guys. I do believe Dana cast it. He chose something of the other player. Max chose something of mine. The other player chose something of Max's. And I was like, well, I'm cool with some of mine going. I'm going to choose some of Max's too. So then Max lost 2 things, but the other 2 players only lost 1 thing.
When you make your vote, you have to first look around and say, if I do this, what's that person going to do? What's that person going to do? Like, you just have to do that mentally.
Yep.
And sometimes you're still wrong, but usually that kind of trying to predict where it's going to go is the key. But if you don't do that, there's just no way. There's just too many variables.
Yeah.
So that's a good one, Max. That's an easy one to mess up. And as much as we love teasing you about it, I get it completely.
Oh, yeah.
So how about you, Chris?
Oh, I'm perfect. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's a fair point. Okay. So we'll
Now, this is my biggest flaw in EDH setting.
Okay.
And that is the mulligan. It is very, very hard in this game, seeing how you're playing in a singleton, to not keep a hand that has all these early drops that are really good that you want in the beginning of the game with 1 land.
Sure.
And knowing the math of your deck that you're going to draw a land within the top 2 or 3 cards if it's perfectly sorted. But you never draw that land.
Right,
I don't care what you say,
You bet.
but
you keep the hand going, okay, if I draw a land on my first 3 cards, I'm fine.
Yep.
And the odds are that I will draw a land in those 3 cards, so I should be okay. And there's enough times you whiff on that you shouldn't do that.
Well, that's when we first played our Planeswalker decks. I kept a 1 land hand that had 2 signets and a commander sphere in it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to hit 1 land.
1 land,
4
I'm good to
turns
go.
later, still
Yeah.
not another land. I'm like, uh-oh.
I think I was the one that got you your second land with a
Yep.
Pier's Whim. I'm like, I feel bad for Chris. You are my friend.
The other one with mulligans that I screw up probably more frequently than even that is everyone's talking and BSing as the game's starting, and I draw 7 cards and don't look, and everyone goes,
Oh.
good, good, good. And I'm like, yep, good. And then I'm like, and we start up, and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have kept that, but I wasn't at all paying attention. And I don't do that like a lot or anything, but I've done that often enough that it's something I screw up.
Yeah.
Particularly if I'm playing with friends and everyone's kind of talking and there's like chaos happening around me and I'm distracted.
Yep.
I absolutely do that enough times that it's a noticeable problem.
Yep. The nice thing about, like, with this format for your mulligans is we do the Vancouver variant and you get a free 7 mulligan.
Yes.
But this format is also slower progression. So you don't need that opening bomb hand.
Right.
If you have a couple of things to do by turn 3 or something like that, that's cool because it is just a slow format in general.
And personally, I usually don't like offer this up ahead of time, but if I see somebody take a mull and then they mull again down to 6 and they're like, oh, I got to go to 5, I usually just say, just stay. Don't go down to 5. Just mull.
Keep 6 until you get a couple lands.
Like I don't want people to mull till they hit the pieces they need, but I don't want people like taking free mulligans till they hit what they want. But I also like don't start at 4 or 5 cards. That's not fun for anybody. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed the partial Paris mulligan when we used it. When people didn't abuse the thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Because when they would reveal and say, I'm keeping this land and I'm pitching all these cards.
Yes.
It's like, okay, you needed lands. That's what you're doing.
Because like that, were you supposed to reveal when you did the partial Paris or no?
I don't.
We always did. I don't
think you do, but we always did.
We house mold that.
Yeah,
so
just to show people that we're not going combo base hard. Like, here's my combo piece. I just have to hit the other one, and I'm going to turn 3 everybody.
Well, I've heard one mull rule, a house one I saw somebody use one time was everyone starts with 1 basic land, draws 7 cards, and then shuffles 1 of the 7 back in.
Interesting.
That I don't mind that rule at all.
Yeah, so I mean, like that solves kind of the problem with people trying to fishing for a combo or something. And it just makes it easier to hit that starting opening hand.
Knowing my luck, I'd draw 7 lands. And I'd be
Right.
what do I do now?
Right. Then you have the opposite problem, right? Yeah, it doesn't solve that portion of it, but yeah, no, that's a good one. Because I honestly, I tend to just pay attention to, do I have enough lands to do a thing and get going? I'm not looking for, do I have the right cards to start winning games? I'm not looking for mulls for that purpose. I'm just looking for, do I have 2 lands and a rock and enough mana to then get going to make the rest of my things happen?
Well, I mean, it's really hard, though. Like, we'll just say you're playing mono black, for instance. Your opening hand is 1 land, go for the throat, fire Exian Arena, Sign in Blood. I mean, just bomb cards, but you need 1 more land.
Yep.
It is so hard to throw that hand.
But it's also, in black, you can get away with that a little bit in a way that you can in white. In black, you can say, oh, I'm at 1 land, but I have a Sign in Blood, and I've got a Night's Whisper, and so I hit that second land, I'm very easily going to hit the 3rd and the 4th.
Yep.
Versus mono white, you're like, if I've got 1 land, the odds, there's nothing else I'm going to hit in this deck that's going to draw me cards that's going to get me down there. So, yeah, like, and that's actually a good point, too. You have to maybe be aware of what your deck is doing, because some decks can take those risky hands in ways other ones can't. Particularly black would be an example. Blue, where you have cantrips and stuff. My Talran deck is much easier to keep a 2-lander, knowing that I probably also have a Brainstorm and a Ponder in that deck and an Anticipate or something. And I can definitely hit my 3rd and my 4th versus my mono-white Planeswalker deck, where that's not going to happen ever. There's nothing. I better have 3 lands on my opening hand or I'm in trouble.
White needs some love. I mean, they've given love to every other color but white. It's almost like
Including
they're
Boros.
Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to get rid of white.
I mean, Smothering Tide helped.
Yeah,
but it still takes
that's
takes 4 mana to get there.
And a turn to get there, so.
And I will say this, people absolutely are not fooled by how powerful that card is. People remove it when they see it, if they can.
I'll just let it go, whatever.
Well,
especially if you're in mono white, I'm like, also, whatever, keep it.
You also can't pay it. It's not like Ristic Study where you're like, Ristic Study feels like you have to pay it. The tax is high enough, you're like, I have to pay it whenever I can. You're like, I just can't, I'm not paying Smothering Tide on a draw. At the start of my turn, I can't pay that. So that's a good card, but we're kind of drifting off topic here. And this is one I think overlaps Max a little bit, but I think we have different reasoning. And I'm going to say making 3-color decks is definitely a weakness for me.
Oh, it's so easy.
So my comfort zone is 2 and 1, and here's why for me. I struggle with having too many card choices.
Yep.
That's the problem I have, absolutely. I make a 3-color deck, and I'm like, I'm at 130 cards, and I want all of them. And when I make a 1 or 2-color deck, it's really easy to get down to like 105 or 106 and make a few cuts. So that's a problem for me, is I have too many decisions, and I get in this thing where I'm like, I know, this spell is good and this spell is good. And like if I'm playing green, I'm like, okay, Beast Within is a great removal spell, and I definitely probably want something like Croson Grip or Deglamour or something. And I'm also playing black, so I probably definitely want to be running something like Go for the Throat. And I'm playing red, so I definitely probably want Chaos Warp in here because it hits anything. And well, I'm in black and green, so I definitely want Maelstrom Pulse and Assassin's Trophy. I'm in black-red, so maybe I'm also going to be running like Dispark or Terminate, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can't have 17 targeted removal spells in this deck, but I don't want to cut any of them because they're all really good.
You can if that is literally your deck is removal.deck.
Maybe, I guess. But that's how it works for me. That was my struggle making that, my Kresh deck, was I've got it 140 cards, and I'm like, I don't want to cut any of these removal spells because they're all awesome, but I can't run 19 targeted removal spells in a deck either. So that's the problem for 3-color decks for me, and it's just easier to not do it. It's just easier to not build a 3-color deck and not have to deal with making those cuts because it's tough. That's what it is for me. So what is your problem with 3-color decks, Max?
My problem is pretty similar. My main strength is strictly 2 colors. I'm not even that good at building monocolor. Sure. I haven't built a monocolor deck in probably 3 years. I think Odric was my last monocolor
I
deck.
kind of want to build one. I just haven't found the right general yet.
But with 2 colors, like I know the strengths and weaknesses of every guild. And when I go to 3 colors, so Tasigur is a good example. I would either play Simic or I'd rather play Golgari. But I don't like all 3 of those together.
Well, sure. If you're playing Golgari, you know what Golgari does, and you can like
Yes.
build around that. When you move up to 3 colors, you now have 3 guilds.
Right.
You added 1 color and added 2 additional guilds that suddenly have their own thing going on, in addition to the like Charter Wedge.
It's like a family. You got to figure out which is the neglected middle child, and you have the firstborn is one favorite, the youngest is the new favorite, and you have that middle child that kind of just sits there. Like I'm here for like 2 things.
Well, what I usually wind up doing when I build to 3 colors, I don't have the only one I have right now is Crash, but in the past, I wind up just saying, okay, this is a splash color, and I build it like a 2 color deck with just a splash of the 3rd, and that kind of solves my problem of wanting to run every single good card possible.
Yeah.
But that's where I kind of have issues with it.
I just prefer not to do it.
Yeah, it's easier than struggling making the cuts and being annoyed. And as annoying as it is making cuts when a new expansion comes out, with a 3 color deck, it's just so much worse. There's so many more options.
We should have a build off again.
Oh no, because you're gonna make me buy all these cards again.
We should make 5 color decks,
Oh, done.
and you have to have at least 3 of each color card in your deck.
Okay. All right, let's discuss this in the car ride tomorrow. Let's see what we can do with that. We'll table this for now before we drift too far off.
I want this on the air. I want to hear people just be like, do it.
Sure, we'll do that for episode 200.
There we go. There's the plan. All right, Max, so what's next for your weaknesses here? You're being bad at Magic.
Okay, so we covered 3 color decks, we covered voting, mulligans. I overextend.
You do.
I overextend all the time, and it's bad.
Really? I don't. Every time I've played with you over the last 6 months or so, I haven't really noticed it too much.
You are better at it than you once were.
Yes, I am. It's something I've been consciously working on, but I still... There was a game a couple weeks ago where I knew, yep, here it is. I drew like the nut hand in Brago, and I literally played it out by turn 3,
Max,
and then boom.
Max makes himself arch enemy
Yes.
too soon, and then when everyone hits you that early to knock you back down, it gets tough to recover from that kind of a beating. And your Brago deck and your Dramoka deck are the ones where you tend to do that. Right in Krav, not so much, but those 2 decks particularly are ones where you're just like, you can't help it. You're like, oh, I've got it all here. I can't.
Yep.
I've got to do it. And you're just like, ah!
With Dramoka, it's like, oh, Mana Crypt, Soul Ring, a Forest, and 3 ramp spells. Okay, let's do this.
Turn 3 Dramoka. Here it comes.
I have turn 2 Dramoka, and then 6 lands by turn 3.
And then someone's like, Wrath of God. And you're like, oh, no.
Okay. It's more like
And
a Wrath of God followed by a Vandal Blast.
Yeah, right.
Then I'm screwed.
But yeah, you are better at it than you were, and you actually, when you do it too, you usually comment. You're like, "Yep, I went too fast that game," and you usually point it out when you do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I overextend too much. I used to do it years ago, and I caught myself and made it a point to. I would actually do things like mentally in my head say, "Okay, I'm intentionally not going to play my commander till turn 5, or I'm intentionally not going to do this until turn 3," and it kind of mentally got me in the habit of not overextending. But it's definitely an easy thing to do.
I definitely, if I have a bad night where I know I've played 3 or 4 games, I overextended in majority of them. That's why I lost or got eliminated early. The next week I'll go to the shop and be like, okay, turns 1 through 5, 1 spell per turn. No matter what. I don't care if I have a Mana Crypt and a Kodama's Reach in my hand in my opening hand. I'm going to play a land and that Mana Crypt, and I'm going to pass. And next turn I'm going to play that Kodama's Reach and do nothing else.
I would say part of the overextension thing for you too, it's not just that you overextend a little bit, it's that you don't worry about being the number 1 target.
Nope.
You don't seem to have that thing where you're like, I'm just going to hang back because you just like, yeah, no, let's just go. Let's just run straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everyone should know not to let him go, not be the number 1 target.
Yeah, well, that's true. Like when you're it's not that you deserve it when you do it. When you come out, when you get focused, it's absolutely because you've just dropped Dramoka and a Baneslayer and it's turn 4.
Bring it.
But you that doesn't always lose. Like I'm not saying that's
No.
You win games doing that too. Sometimes if no one has a board wipe in hand and Dramoka's down and like, oh, I can't cast spells on your turn, someone just gets domed and loses, and if no one else, then the other two people don't have something, someone else is going to lose next turn, and I mean, that just happens sometimes too.
Right.
But that is also kind of a problem because then it reinforces the overextension because it works enough that it doesn't always punish you.
Yep. I see a lot of people do it though. Like every time I sit down, at least one person on the table ends up overextending.
Now you don't overextend, Chris, and
I play it way too slow sometimes.
for somebody who's which is a little bit surprising though because you're a 1v1 player and you play other formats where it's much less of a big you're just trying to kill the person. There's no concern about.
It's actually we'll take 1v1 for instance. Now modern and other stuff, yeah, you can overextend it.
Sure.
You don't quite get blown out. But in 1v1, if you do overextend, they can just blow you out and lock you out of the game, and you just lose.
Because there's no chance to slowly rebuild.
Yep.
Because when the focus shifts.
Yeah, once they have the lock set, you're playing, Singleton Legacy at that point. And they can just lock you out and win the game on the spot, pretty much.
Whereas in a 4-player game, you sometimes have that chance where you get blown out by when you overextend it, and then everyone switches focus to somebody else because they've not taken the lead.
Yep.
And then you can creep back in. That doesn't happen in other formats.
I think the only deck that I ever really overextend in is Alesha. Like if I have a hand that says you need to go hard, I'll go hard, and I won't even cast Alesha. I'll just jam all my things.
Sure.
Like, you destroy them all. Cool. Now I'll start reanimating everything.
And that's one deck where where it's kind of self-resilient in a way. Because of Alesha, you can kind of rebuild much easier after that blowout than other decks can.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, what else do you have since we talked about something you don't do badly, which is overextend? What would be something you do badly?
I labeled this one with my good friend Charlie Sheen. It's called Not Playing Like a Winner.
Okay.
So what exactly do I mean by this? I mean, now there's a common crowd of people that play EDH.
Yep.
And these are all casual players.
For the most part.
Yep. But yet, when you sit down into a casual game, you're not thinking about winning. You're not thinking about doing anything else. So then when you get blown out, you feel bad.
Yes.
For me, I need to sit down when I play EDH and think of it as, yes, we're friends. If I win, if I crush both of you guys, next time that we play, there's not going to be hard feelings about it.
You'll just get fired.
Right. You're just off the show.
And that's what I mean by, not playing like a winner. Because you're just sitting down to have fun.
Yep.
But yet, the game needs to end. Someone needs to win, whatever. And I would like to take that approach more of, okay, I need to play like I'm going to win this game. Not like I don't care what happens in the game type of deal.
You're trying to find that balance between your competitiveness you have in 1v1 or modern and trying to tone it down a little for EDH, where you still have fun and are casual, but you go in with the let's try to win the game.
Yep. I still have my, hit list, though. If someone sits down with me like, yeah, those two people are sitting in this group. Yep, I'm going to just go ham. It's not even going to be fun to play.
Chris goes all Arya Stark then. He starts reading the names off. I know what you're saying, though. One of the things I kind of do for that is I've been playing my Vela deck a lot, and it's probably my weakest deck. You don't think so?
No.
I would, what do you think? Well, Jeru.
It would be your weakest deck.
But it's pretty easy to see coming. It's relatively slow anyway. It does fine if the game goes long, but it's never going to win anything fast. And I tend to play that in situations when I know, I'm like, I don't know why I play that. These decks are all better than that Vela deck, and I knew that sitting down, so why did I play it? I sometimes tend to err on the side of playing decks that are weaker than my competition, even when I really should know that they're better. So I probably just need to get better. Maybe I have to mentally say, I'm just going to play my strong deck here, and it is what it is. And next game I'll play Vela. I don't need to play Vela 3 games in a row because I'm afraid of hurting someone's feelings.
Worst case, you play your best deck, and you just best deck minus Edric. We'll say that.
Right. Sure.
And just pull punches. Worst case, if you see the game going, the fact that I'm going to run this game over.
And these guys
some punches.
And these decks are way worse than I thought they were.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I don't think it's something I do that often, but I definitely have done it.
I don't know why you're talking about Edric. I mean, his Recce deck's the worst one that he owns.
That might be his best deck.
Well, I kind of felt bad last week when I played with it because I was playing with 3 players I didn't really know that well, and it blew up on turn 5 where I was, I dropped Galta and 6 other creatures, and I played Concordant Crossroads and killed 2 people, and then I felt bad again. I was like, oh man.
Well, For everyone listening, though, this is a play mistake that I've seen people do. And we'll take Reki History Kamigawa, for instance. It is a recurable draw source.
Yes.
If you watch someone draw 3 cards off of that, you need to realize right then and there that card needs to be removed.
Well, and especially, yeah, that's one I understand if you are someone who's new to that deck and you haven't seen it and you're like, oh, it's a card from Kamigawa that I've never seen anyone play before. Clearly, it's bad. Like, I get that.
Yep.
And then even if I draw a few cards off it, I get why you're still like, okay, he's drawn a few cards. It's still Reki History Kamigawa. But if you're somebody that has seen me play that deck, you should just know to kill Reki. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen.
It's like when I was playing Max's Brago deck against his Dramoka deck. And he went turn 2 Sylvan Library, and I'm like, Force of Will? No.
Right.
Yep.
I'm like, this ain't happening this way.
And I sat there, I'm like, wait, what?
Well, my next one here is going to be, I'm good at coming up with plans that have 3 or 4 steps in them, and I'm even better at then immediately forgetting step 1 and jumping straight to step 3 or 4. And I don't know how I do that, and I don't know how to fix that problem necessarily, but I probably every other week at least I do that in a game where I'm like, okay, when it comes back to me, I need to deal with that, and then I can do this thing, and then I'll play this, and I can kill that person. And it needs to be done in that sequence. And then the person passes their turn to me, and I immediately forget step 1 in that plan, and jump into 2, 3, and 4, which then everything falls apart without having done step 1 first. And I do that often enough that it's a real legit problem, and I don't know if I need to maybe pull out a notepad and like write down step here. Step 1, destroy that thing first. Because what happened last week was, or 2 weeks ago when I was playing, so I had my Talran deck out, and I had a good bit of mana and ramp, and I already had like half a dozen Drakes out, except for the person that was playing the Enchantress deck had Luminarch Ascension and had the ability to make a couple angels.
Yep.
And I wanted to drop Dora Destinies, which would have made all my Drakes into, 6/6 or 7/7s, whatever it was, and I could have then killed somebody that turn. I had counter magic to back it up, and I'm like, okay, I need to remove the Luminarch Ascension, and I had a bounce spell. I'm like, I just got to bounce that, and then I can play Dora Destinies, I can do this and do that, and I came to my turn, and I missed I forgot to bounce the Luminarch Ascension. I just went out with my plan and played the Dora Destinies, killed one person, came back on the Ascension player, and they just like made a bunch of angels that turned into 12 12s or something.
Oh.
And I'm like, I knew that. I like had the,
boomerang or something.
It was boomerang. I had boomerang in my hand, and I'm like, come on. And not only had I skipped that step, I then wound up casting like an anticipate at the end of the turn. I was like, oh, I have 2 mana left. I might as well anticipate or whatever it was. I think it was a sorcery speed draw spell, but whatever. And then that was the 2 mana that I had planned on using the boomerang for. So I couldn't even then, after I realized my mistake, I couldn't then boomerang the Ascension. I just done.
Yep.
So
I had a very similar thing happen to me Monday when I was playing Modern. I was playing against Mono Red Phoenix, which is a glorified burn deck, pretty much, for everyone who doesn't know. I'm playing Red Green Valkut, which is a combo-based mid-range deck.
Yep.
So I'm all down to 6. Opening hand's beautiful. Scry, and there's a Anger of the Gods on top. I'm like, awesome. Put it down. I go first. Played a land, cracked my fetch land to play Search for Tomorrow, which is your perfect number 1 play.
Sure.
As soon as I cracked the fetch land, I just picked up my deck, and I'm like, oops, and shuffled away the Anger of the Gods, which ended up costing me the game. Because I didn't follow through, like Dana was saying, with step 1, which was play land, pass, draw, then crack fetch land.
Because you got so excited about doing those fun 3 and 4 steps.
The perfect starting play like you're supposed to if you had like a good 7 hand, but no, I was down to 6, and I needed that anger off the top.
Yeah. And it's an easy thing to screw up. Like, it's an easy thing to miss those little things. In the pre-release, I was playing against a guy at a shop who's a really, really good limited player. He's known as being a great limited player.
Shout out to Mike Miller.
Mike Miller is his name, yeah. I think he played in 2 pre-releases, and he went 4-0, 4-0 in both of them.
Yep.
So he's...
out of everyone in Eau Claire that I know, he has 2 professional points.
Does he? Okay.
He makes every day, he makes day 2 for the GPs whenever it's a limited format.
He's, for whatever reason, he's great at that kind of thing. And we were playing, and like on my turn, I played a Narset, who said you can only draw 1 card. And he's like, what does she do again? I turned around so he could read it. He's like, oh, I can only draw 1 card a turn. Okay. And I did her, whatever it is, -1 or whatever, so is it anticipate basically on her?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think it's top 4 though.
And then
basically,
And then I passed a turn to him, and he had played the Looter the turn before.
Yep.
And I got to his turn. He's like, okay. And he's like, oh, I didn't get my land drop. I might as well loot, see if I can hit it. And I'm like, well, you can't draw the second card because of Narset. And we just discussed it literally like 12 seconds earlier. And he's like, oh, I guess I just paid 2 mana to discard. And he's a really good, but like that kind of thing happens. Like it goes in one ear and out the other. And even really good players can screw that up.
Because you're focused on your game plan and what you need to do, and then you miss the other steps within it.
So the next one I will go to for myself here is, and this isn't one I've ran across too much lately, but I've seen it in the past and it still happens sometimes, not adjusting my gameplay to what's happening in the pod I'm in. And for example, I've seen this happen before where I'm either playing against opponents that aren't running removal because they just didn't build decks that have removal, or
I thought we were over those days.
well, but you still see it sometimes. It's better than it used to be, but you still see it sometimes. Or sometimes you just don't draw any. Like I've had those games where I know my deck has, a half a dozen different answers to things, and I just haven't seen any of them in 8 turns. That happens too. But sometimes you get those games where either no one has it or they don't have it, period. So you're removing things and you're like playing this game, and all of a sudden you're down to 1 card in hand because you've been dealing with every single problem. And at some point, you should have realized that you're the only one that's responding to things, and stop doing that. Because if everyone's responding to things in even manner, roughly, if they're solving problems, then there's kind of a balance, and you're not really falling behind more than anyone else is, and the game's kind of at equilibrium. If you're the only one answering things for the most part, you're just running out of cards.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is my number one goal when I play Modern against Control. If I'm playing Burn, if I just keep drawing gas, I will keep forcing it in, because you only have X amount of removal cards or counter spells or whatever, which then lacks them into they can't jam their card draw spells, they can't do other things, which then costs them the game.
Mm-hmm. I haven't played, because I usually play at the shop for the most part, but in the past I've played in different metas with different players. And I can think of, Max, you and I in Minneapolis at a GP a couple of years ago played with a couple 2 or 3 friends that only played together, and none of them had considered ever running removal. They seemed shocked at the very concept that things could leave the battlefield once they were there.
I remember that game. You and I sat there I think at one point Daniel looked at me and goes, I know your deck list pretty well. I'm like, yep, and you're out just like I am. We have nothing left.
Yeah, because that's what we were doing, because we were both playing like we normally would when we were playing with you and somebody else at the shop, where everyone is, okay, someone played a doubling season, I don't have a response, but that person will, so I don't need to pull my tutor to get a response, and everyone's kind of dealing with problems in the kind of that ebb and flow back and forth. And if you aren't paying attention and you're assuming that's happening, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that didn't happen, it's just me.
Yeah.
You're going to lose.
I just want to make a big fatty deck now with no removal and just be
stuff.
like, can you take care of this? No. Can you take care of this? No.
Because that's if you are the person playing the deck that has the quote-unquote correct amount of removal against 3 fatty decks, you're going to lose.
Yep.
Because you're going to blow a bunch of removal, and next thing you know, you're down to 1 card, and everyone else is still at 5 or 6 in hand, and they just start dropping those craw worms or whatever it is. You can't deal with that.
What an example.
That's my go-to for bad fatty creatures is craw worm. So yeah, I sometimes have I don't realize how the game has changed that particular pod, how it's doing before it's too late. So I need to be more conscious of what's going on around me sometimes and say, oh, I shouldn't be playing with the same play style I play with Chris and Max with these guys, because I'm just going to screw myself.
Yeah.
So that's one that definitely has been something I've missed out in the past.
You can not play that way with us, too.
I could, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
I would like an easy win.
Another build off.
Yeah, there we go. No removal decks. Craw worm tribal.
1 board wipe apiece, that's it.
All right, Max, back to you.
So my next one is back in the deck building realm. I have a hard time of realizing when a pet card isn't a pet card anymore.
Okay.
So the card I'm going to use for this example is Luminarch Ascension.
Trash card.
It's in my Dramoka deck, and it's every time I go to make a cut, it's like Luminarch Ascension can come out. It's only really good early game or late game after a board wipe when everybody needs to rebuild.
Right. Paints a big target on you.
It does paint a big target on you no matter when you play it. But at the same time, every time I go to pull that card, the week before, it just does work.
Yes.
Every game I play that deck, it does its job. keeps me in the game or makes it so I can win or take second. And so it's always like, well, it can stay in another week, and I really need to crack down on myself and realize, like, no, this really isn't a great card except for very extremely situational parts of the game. What is a better 2-drop to run?
It's kind of like the overextending thing where it works often enough
Right.
that it makes you then be like, it's still okay if I go hard because it works sometimes.
Like, I know in the big picture, I'm really looking at like a 4 CMC card because it's 2 to cast and 2 to use.
Yeah, the first Angel is still 4 mana.
Right.
It would,
And it's a
I would
delay.
honestly consider it like a 6 CMC card, 6 or 8.
Because you
it
want at
takes
least 2 angels.
Well, it takes like 3 turns before it even goes off.
Right.
So you got to think about it in that case where I could play a 6 mana card, and if it does the same thing as popping out, like a 4/4, then I'm getting about the equal value.
Right. Well, I mean, you guys recommended the new Parhelion too. And so, like, that's the only card I kind of compare it to is like, well, it's just a better Luminarch Ascension, but it's 8 mana or whatever, 6 or 8 mana. I really don't want to see my curve go from 3 point something to 3 point almost 4 by making that swap.
And I like Parhelion. I don't think Parhelion's necessarily a good card. I just think it's a cool card and it's fun.
It's a cool...
I think it would be awesome in his deck. The amount of ramp that he plays and everything, I think it would work wonders.
Yeah.
I think it's worth trying just to see how it plays.
It definitely is. But
if you also come back in 2 weeks and say I played it and it's awful, I would believe you. But I still think it's fun.
Yeah, but I mean, when I deck build, I really need to start looking at cards where, like, they're only good in situations A and B, where this card is overall good any point in the game.
And sometimes pet cards too, like you just have to be like, I'm sorry, it's a
we
pet
gotta break
card,
up.
but like, yes, that's a good way to put it. Yes,
We gotta break up.
I've outgrown this relationship. Sorry, honey. Sorry, Luminarch Ascension.
I'm trying to think if I have any pet cards that I'm like that I just won't give up. I think it's Lightning Bolt.
It
I
is
really think it's
Lightning
Lightning Bolt.
Well, and Lightning Bolt does work enough times. It kills that Reki History Kamigawa.
It would've won that
that
game
goes to
last
the
week.
trader. Doesn't kill Brago.
And it's so hard because I have like play sets of all the fancy ones too. It's just like, my favorite card.
Do you play a mismatched set of 4 different ones in your...
No, that's blasphemy. I get so mad. Literally, one of my teammates, Nate, who's usually my partner for like 2-headed giant and stuff like that, he does that on purpose just to irritate me.
Yeah, he does.
Well, at this point, we have 4 different shock lands you could go with too.
I think there was one point where Nate's like, hey, do you have this card, but I need this version? I go, yeah, why? He goes, I need it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Just to tilt Chris.
The only time that I do that, I actually have that in my Valkut deck. I have the 4 different stomping grounds.
Yep.
Because I have the Expedition. I have the 3 different Ravnica ones. And the only reason I did that was because I was missing one Shockland, and the one that I had to buy was a Dissension version. And I paid an arm and a leg for it, and I'm like, I guess we're putting it in there, and I'm going to have all these different ones.
Very nice.
All right, Max, any more from you?
That's all of my list. And I'm sure I do a lot more wrong, or I'm bad at a lot more stuff, and we'll find out at the next Magic Fest, because this is technically in the future.
That's true, yeah. How about you, Chris? I do have one more, if you're out.
If I had to say anything else, it has to deal with decks themselves. I get bored playing them.
Okay.
So I pitch them a lot. Like, I've gone through so many decks. Now I'm down to the point where I have my 2 decks plus Anamatu, which I'm really enjoying. I'm probably going to stick with, and I haven't found anything I want to build right now.
And I'm the reverse. I'm not a brewer. So, like, I like my 5 decks, the 5 I have right now, and I don't... Maybe I'll build one more. Like, I want to have 6 for Vegas, even though I'm bringing Mogus with me. But I want to have, like, 6 of my own and bring Mogus.
Okay.
We should build a heavy combo Najila, and I'll send that with you.
I thought you meant heavy as in just like heavy for him to lift.
They're like quad sleeve.
Yeah.
It's in 2 deck. It's an entire archive to like shuffle the deck.
That'll be all foil, so that adds extra weight. We'll put it in one of those sear deck boxes, so that adds even more weight.
Hard case every card.
All in hard. Oh, perfect.
Those people surprise me at Magic Fest.
I've seen that.
So have I.
With all in top loaders.
Yep.
It's like 1.5 feet high. You can't shuffle it. Yeah, I've seen that deck. So my last one here is, and we joke about this one, I miss triggers when it gets late. But to be honest, it's not just when it gets late. Some of my decks are very triggery because I like to build decks that have a lot of synergy and a lot of contraptions and a lot of things going on. And that's good, but you can get to the point very easily sometimes in those decks where the stack is just blown apart because there's so many things happening. And my brain then just goes, nope, I don't care. I'm not even gonna. I'm just ignoring those 4 things because I've done that enough times, Rogers, and like. It's easy to miss the 1 or 2 ones. There's no excuse for missing yourself in the library, but sometimes when
I've totally missed some of
I
them.
mean, I know what I'm saying, and I'm not defending that one, but enough times where like in your turn when you've just played this and you're like, okay, this is going to trigger that, and then that's going to happen, this is going to happen, and then when I do that, it's going to do 3 more things that will like that happens often enough in my decks, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do now.
Is this why I've never seen you play Brago?
Brago would be a lot. Yes, that would be tricky because it gets to that point.
I'd love that.
I like Brago too, and actually, I like those decks. I sometimes get to that point where there's too much going on, and so then I just don't do it. I just like, nope, I'm not gonna do those triggers.
And that's why when we do our official T-shirts with our slogans on them.
I just figured out Dana's slogan. What time is it?
Yeah, that's a good. That would work. Well, and the last one in my Recce deck, because I have Cream of the Crop in that deck. Whenever a creature comes into play, you look at that many cards top of your library based on the power of it.
Yep.
And it was one of those turns where I just had like 14 creatures coming into play, and at some point I'm like, I'm not gonna start doing Cream of the Crop triggers. This turn's gonna take me 9 minutes as it is. I don't need to turn it into a 14-minute turn. But that you can lose a game if you don't do that too. If like that can be the edge that puts you over the top. But I had enough stuff going on because when something came into play, I was drawing off Recce, and I was then drawing off a trigger off Elements Archive off the Recce draw, and I had something else. I mean, I can't remember what it was. Selvala, I think. So like if it was a high toughness creature, I would draw. There was so many things going on that I just quit paying attention, and that's something I need to either pull some things out of my deck so it doesn't get to that point, or just resign myself to slowing down and saying, sorry guys, this turn might take a little bit longer, but I think I can win if I do everything.
Oh, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that as long as you warn people.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even care if you don't warn me.
Well,
if you're just going, but you're actually progressing the game state, because being a competitive player, as long as the board state's being progressed, it doesn't bother me if someone takes a 10-minute turn.
Sure.
Because
they're doing things.
They're just putting into it to the point where you know that you're pretty much going to lose the game, but you're waiting for them to show you how you're going to lose the game.
Well, and I will throw one more out here that just kind of occurred to me. It's not reading cards that you have in your deck because you think you know what they do.
I had that on Wednesday.
but you instead confuse it with something else. Mm-hmm. And the most recent example I can think of was Merchant Scroll and Mystical Tutor. Merchant Scroll goes to hand. Mystical Tutor goes to top of your library.
Yep.
And there's been times when I've been like, okay, Merchant Scroll, but I have no way to draw, so I don't want to cast it to do this. It just goes straight to your hand.
Yep.
But I didn't even and I'm holding the card. I can clearly just read it and see what it says. But mentally, I've already decided I know what it does because I've confused it with something else. And I think that's the kind of thing I've seen other players do it too. But that's one I need to worry about is, again, stop, take an extra 4 seconds and read your card and make sure that Putrefy isn't a Mortify and it actually does hit an enchantment, not an artifact, or vice versa. That's an easy one to mess up. And actually, I saw Max do that.
Yeah, I did it like a week ago. Yeah.
You cast a Putrefy and an enchantment?
I cast something on the wrong target.
Yes, it was one of the ones on the wrong one. So that's an easy one to do particularly if it's your deck and you've been playing it a long time.
Yeah.
But it has 2 kind of similar cards. It's easy to make to invert them and make the mistake.
Yep.
And then just not read your own card. So that's the one I need to probably just in general slow down my play and be a little more conscientious and cautious too. So.
And it will keep you from overextending if you slow down your play
There
too.
we go, yeah. And keep you from screwing up that Council Judgment if you're somebody who screws that up.
Whatevs.
This weekend, Max's goal is going to be to not mess up a single Council's Judgment.
That's not going to happen.
I hope he casts it with me because I'm going to sit there and think super hard about it too and be like, how can I vote to make him
Do you have it in a
screw
deck of yours?
No.
Because you could play it on Amanatu and in Alesha. You have 2 decks that could run
I
it.
could play it in those. Alesha, I play more of the Exile, Anguish of Making, Utter End, that kind of stuff over the Council's
there's
Judgment.
so much good removal in those colors.
Yep. Double
We'll
white's
see.
quite annoying.
I've got it in I've got it in my Sphinx deck and I've got it in Jeru. So there's 2 I could hit Max with this weekend. We'll see.
And I have it in 2 decks as well.
All right. It's even better if he screws it up himself. That's the
always
real
do.
That's the real chef's kiss. Okay, well, that's going to wrap up episode 104. Thanks to our editor, Ken Peddle. You can find him on Twitter at LOAD3R. Podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod. And you can find me on Twitter at Dana Roach. You can find Max on Twitter at CMDRCentral_Max. And Chris is out there at WiseSquishy1. We'll be back next Thursday with a short show. Until then, I am Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.